And this is the science that the U.S. Food and Drug Administration cannot afford to ignore. The FDA expects the new egg safety rule, once fully implemented, to cut down the number of Americans food poisoned by salmonella from current 142,000 cases a year down to 63,000 cases. So essentially cutting the number of cases in half. But even using their estimates, even under the rule, still nearly 1,000 Americans a week are expected to continue to be sickened by salmonella-tainted eggs every year under the new rule. And so that's why we are asking the FDA to revise the egg safety rule to address the clear link between housing systems for hens and salmonella risk, and to develop a plan for the phase-out of cage confinement. Many of the common egg cooking methods, over easy, scrambled, sunny side up, are not can't effectively eliminate the threat of salmonella. So it's up to the industry to clean up their act at the source and move away from this continued confinement of hens in cages.
Thank you, Dr. Greger. And he mentioned the egg safety rule. In the letter that I wrote to Commissioner Hamburg today, I asked her to open that rule up so she can look at the issue of phasing out these cage systems. We must get away from these intensive confinement systems as a matter of animal welfare and food safety. Operator, we are now done with the formal presentation, and we're going to start with questions here at the L Street office, and then we can take some on the line. Any questions? Yes, sir.
What has been the reaction of Cal-Maine to this video? And beyond that, have you shown it to state regulators and to the FDA?
We've just rolled everything out at 11 o'clock Eastern Time today. So we posted the information on our website. I had a blog that lays out the issues, and we will be presenting all this to Cal-Maine as they see fit, and we are going to welcome the opportunity to sit down with them and talk to them about it, because like many major producers, they certainly know how to do cage-free production, and that's the alternative here.
Would you feel you've ambushed them in a sense? You say you want to work with industry, but as of this moment, they haven't even seen this. You're releasing it publicly for the first time, is that correct?
That's correct. Well, we certainly have to rely on undercover investigation to sort some of this out. And we're announcing it. These are not new ideas that we've presented to the egg industry, and frankly, these images are similar to those that we found in April. The industry is already on notice. So while we're critical, and while Cal-Maine's certainly not going to be happy to see this report, we are happy to work with them to turn this in a constructive direction.
What is Cal-Maine's record? Is it a habitual violator? Has it been repeatedly cited?
Well, I believe there have been 2 salmonella outbreaks associated with the company, and the one was a contractor in Ohio Fresh Eggs, and it was about 250,000 eggs recalled just, what was the month?
November.
Yeah, it was November. It was just a few days ago. Our argument has really never been that anyone is being maliciously and deliberately cruel. It's that the confinement system is so extreme that it has such a low ceiling in terms of animal welfare, and that these are the inevitable consequences of it. You can't properly manage this much manure. You can't have adequate animal care. And if animals can't engage in normal behaviors like nesting, dust bathing, extending their wings, how can you possibly reach any decent animal welfare standards? Any other questions here in the room?
Do you know what percentage of current production is cage-free in the United States?
It's probably only about 5% right now, but we are we are hopeful that as the major retailers, whether it's fast food companies, supermarkets, phase in more cage-free eggs, those numbers can go up dramatically. In the United Kingdom now, they essentially are phasing out all of these barren battery cages, and they're moving to a different type of cage, but now more than half the production is cage-free. Austria bans all cages. You cannot find in Germany a shell egg from a cage confinement system. So if you're able to serve markets with that many consumers, we've already met the test, or these producers doing it the cage-free way have already met the test of having a commercially viable production system that does not confine the animal so severely. Yes, sir.
Do you favor a consumer and retailer boycott of cage-confined eggs, given the repeated pattern of purchasing?
I think that, I think what we want to see, we know that the retailers and the producers can't immediately turn on a dime. And essentially what we'd like to see are commitments to phase in cage-free eggs by the retailers. And Burger King and a number of companies have already made outstanding commitments in this realm. You have, companies like Whole Foods that are entirely cage-free already. So there's a spectrum from a small percentage to 100%. And we're now seeing many of the major companies start to move in this direction. And we know that the production systems, again, there's a lot invested in these systems, so they can't flip it overnight. So what we'd like to see from them, this is where we want to work with them, is do it over the period of a few years.
As a consumer in a supermarket, is there a cage-free labeling as there is in organic?
Well, there is. It's not a certified sort of program in terms of the government certification, but we believe that the declarations that you see on cartons of eggs that are cage-free, we believe those are generally reliable. And we know that consumers now have these options in almost every major retail supermarket. I mean, if you go to any supermarket in Washington, D.C., Iowa, California, Texas, you're going to see cage-free eggs. In fact, Walmart's private line of eggs is cage-free. The only you can't see them in places, companies, that are fast food companies that are, serving you something. They don't necessarily offer a cage-free option or a caged hen egg. So they're phasing. That's why we want them all, over time to get to 100%.
Given these extreme filthy conditions that you've seen in the video, why are we not seeing daily or frequent salmonella outbreaks? I mean, this is rather disturbing.
Yeah, Dr. Greger, why don't I leave that to you?
Well, the latest FDA estimates are 142,000 Americans sickened every year by salmonella-tainted eggs. So we have an egg-borne epidemic in this country, and that's in a good year. That was before the recall. That was an estimate in December 2009 by the FDA. And so, yes, the egg safety rule will make some inroads, but still expecting nearly 1,000 Americans a week to continue to be sickened by salmonella-tainted eggs. And so we are seeing the epidemic one would expect from raising eggs under these kind of conditions.
Operator, we'd be happy to take a question or two or three if there are any in the queue for folks participating on the phone line.
To ask a question during this time, simply press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. We'll pause for just a moment to compile the Q&A roster.
I do want to mention while that is happening, today the U.S. Senate is expected to take up the FDA Food Safety Modernization Act, and it has a number of elements to it that we think can improve the situation by giving FDA more authority to do on-farm inspections, civil and criminal penalties, and a more risk-based assessment of looking at some of these bad actors. So we do think that's a step. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't call for a phase-out of these cage confinement systems, but it's a step along the process. And we think the leading edge of this is going to be the retail sector, the major supermarkets, fast food companies saying, hey, we are no longer going to purchase eggs from these facilities that confine the animals in such extreme ways. So, operator, you can just chime in if any questions do pop up on the grid there.
You do have an audio question from the line of Chandra Torrey.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, this is Sandra Torrey from USA Today editorial page. What is the cost of a carton of cage-free eggs versus caged, generally?
Well, it varies obviously by market, and we're seeing in some cases. I mean, the egg industry has done studies that show that the additional cost on the production side for cage-free versus these battery cage confinement is 1 penny per egg. So that would be 12 additional cents for a carton. Now, there may be, a markup beyond that because it's viewed as a value-added product. And we believe that as more cage-free eggs exist on the market and there's more consumer demand, we're going to see the price differential continue to shrink, just basic economics. And we believe that the cage confinement eggs have hidden costs, animal cruelty, public health costs, environmental costs in terms of the manure problems. So all sorts of costs that you're not registering at the checkout counter, but nonetheless are expensive for our society.
Can you say, though, whether I've seen cage-free eggs for as much as double or more a regular carton of eggs. Can you define that a little bit more in a couple of markets, what the difference is?
Well, it depends, Sandra. There are actually a variety of different cage-free eggs. You've got vegetarian-fed, and then you may have free-range, which means they're kind of outside, or at least they're moving around. You have value-added elements to it. Organic is a higher standard in terms of no kind of pesticide applications anywhere in the process. So we've seen, the differential be, 30 or 40 cents higher in some markets, and then it can be double depending upon, how many different elements. But basic cage-free certainly should not be double. It should just be, 30, 40 cents more.
Do you have any idea what Walmart sells its eggs for, since obviously they'd be a big producer?
Do we have anyone here who knows the Walmart costs? It varies, and you see egg prices fluctuate as a commodity a great deal, and the oversupply issues sometimes depress prices, and inadequate supply jacks them up. So couldn't tell you, but we can get back to you. We can email you some of that information a little bit later.
Thank you.
Thank you. Another question on the phone, operator?
Again, to ask an audio question, please press star 1 at this time.